helping students and healthcare professionals not just survive, but thrive with a purpose. This is the CMDA Student Pulse podcast with your host, Bill Reichart, National Director of CMDA Campus Ministries.
Well, welcome to another episode of CMDA's Student Pulse podcast. I'm Bill Reichart, National Director of Campus and Community Ministries here at CMDA. And my guest today is Dr. Alexandria McDow. Allie, thanks for joining me.
Thanks so much, Bill, for inviting me. Happy to be here.
Well, before we get started, let me give a little introduction of who you are and so people can get to know you a little bit. Allie graduated from University of Kentucky College of Medicine, went on to her residency in general surgery at Southern Illinois University. Currently, Allie is a general surgeon and an endocrine surgeon at Indiana University, living in the Indianapolis area, married to David now, celebrating 10 years coming up here soon, and involved in the local ministry, has had multiple opportunities of impact everywhere you've gone, Allie. I've noticed here in Kentucky, you were part of the initial Connect the Docs, and also been involved. I should also not fail to mention, you were on the Board of Trustees as a young trustee, and so you've had national leadership responsibilities as well. So we're going to talk about mentoring, and many of you who are listening or watching have heard CMDA talk a lot about this. Certainly more than just talk, of course, but you hear it. It's in the things that we talk about, the ministries throughout the different communities at large. And Allie, you've been personally impacted through mentoring. It's been a big part of your life, your spiritual journey, and I thought it would be just a great opportunity to kind of add some color to this topic that we talk about and really talking about your story and your experience. So let me just ask you right off the bat, I mean, your journey with Christ, now this could be, as part of your healthcare journey or beyond that. Have you been a mentor? I mean, you've been a mentor, and what difference has that made in your life and in the people that you've had a chance to impact?
Yeah, thanks for that question. So mentorship is really one of my biggest passions. And I think when God really first placed this on my heart was when I was a first-year medical student now, about 15 years ago. So I learned in medical school that medicine is really a journey. Medical school and residency, fellowship, and even faculty life is a journey and not a race. And so pretty quickly I learned that I needed to get plugged into community. And so as a student, I was lucky enough to have 3 women that really poured into me as a student in the midst of their busy time in school. And through that, I was encouraged really to persevere because they really set an example for me they've kind of been through the trials that I was currently going through. And so through God's word, I really felt like I was placed in a fertile ground to really flourish through mentors that were in my life. And so one of my kind of verses, if you don't mind if I share this with you, is I really feel like speaks to mentorship is 1 Thessalonians 3 verse 12. And it says, "May the master pour on the love so that it fills your lives and splashes over on everyone around you, just as it does from us to you." And I really feel like that's the heart of mentorship, is that we are just allowing God to pour into us, and that we are then overflowing onto other people, if you will.
I love that. It's mentoring is a byproduct of that deep abiding walk with the Lord. It's an overflow. It doesn't come out of a vacuum. So you had these women pour into your life. What was that time like? What are the things that you were engaged in in this mentoring relationship?
Yeah, so I think that mentorship can hold many forms, whether it's, a spiritual mentor or a professional or a career mentor or a research mentor. I think during that time in my life, we were pouring into Bible studies, and allowing God to really speak to us through his word. But I think what I learned through having a mentor is that really God teaches us to have a Paul and a Timothy in our life. So Paul being someone who's gone before us and can kind of share the road with us, and Timothy meaning someone that we can experiences with. And I really feel that at every station in your life that you should not only have a Paul, a mentor, but you are always capable of being a mentor and have that Timothy in your life as well.
Stay with us. More Student Pulse podcast in just a moment.
As the largest faith-based healthcare professional organization in the world, the Christian Medical and Dental Associations educates, encourages, and equips its more than 13,000 Christian healthcare professionals to care for the poor, homeless, and refugees in some of the most vulnerable areas in America. In addition to providing resources, networking opportunities, education, and a public voice for Christian healthcare professionals and students, the CMDA addresses policies on healthcare issues and conducts overseas medical education. These CMDA members integrate their faith with their practice while serving the poor, uninsured, and underinsured. Learn more today about the Christian Medical and Dental Associations, changing hearts in healthcare. For more information on how to join or donate, go to cmda.org/viewpoint or call 888-230-2637.
Well, that's an important, exhortation. But let me ask you this: that's more challenging, though, isn't it, to find those Pauls, or to we're busy. We've got busy schedules. A lot is vying for our time and attention. How do you cut through the busyness? How do you make mentoring a priority? Because I agree with everything you say, but there are real challenges and barriers that often keep people from entering into those relationships. What are they, and what would you say to help a person overcome those barriers?
Yeah, so I think the two barriers that I hear a lot about being a mentor or even being a mentee is both time and ability. And in terms of time, how I see it is really just inviting your mentee along with you. Mm-hmm. So whether that is, hey, let's go grab a cup of coffee in between surgery cases, or for me, sometime on the weekends, I'm going to go get a pedicure. And so I invite my mentee to come with me to get a pedicure because that's something I'm already planning to do. So really, and that's kind of like Jesus's model, right? Mm-hmm. He just said, come and follow me, or come and see. And so for me, it's not often adding in additional time or workload. Right. It's things that I am already planning to do, and then just inviting somebody to come along with me. Yeah. And then the second barrier of ability. I think that a lot of people think that, well, I'm not at a point in my life where I'm able to be a mentor, or I'm not good enough to be a mentor. Mm-hmm. And really, I think mentorship is really just about connecting. Mm. So you're just sharing your life, and then your mentee is going to learn both from your successes and failures. And so it's just about being authentic with somebody else.
Right. Yeah, I think so often we can think, well, mentoring's got to be some highly structured program or curriculum or something that we're doing. Although, I mean, there can be some structures, and that's fine. You were talking about Bible study, and there may have been some structures around that. But I think it reminds me of an article I read years ago called The Ministry of Hanging Out. And the idea was you invite people into your daily life. You bring them into your routines, whatever those might be, your hobbies, your interests. And so often I've heard those examples from mentors time and time again that's where the most success is just inviting them into those, meals. That's a basic one. We all have to eat, so have a meal together. And you can start there. Yeah.
Absolutely. Other times it is, going to brunch after church on a Sunday. So, my husband and I have to eat after church. And so, I even include my mentees with my family. So, and I think as a mentee, it's nice to see, well, how does this person do life? We each do life a little bit differently. And so it doesn't have to be excluding those other relationships that we have, but actually just bringing in the mentee with us.
Right. Well, you're talking about those barriers and how to overcome them, which I think is very helpful. I think sometimes it's also a challenge of how does this thing begin? How did it begin? I mean, with you, I think we anticipate, is it going to be some awkward conversation? Like, will you be my mentor? Or are there natural on-ramps that make these opportunities possible? Maybe you can speak into that a little bit.
Yeah, I think certainly I have found mentors and mentees through many different avenues. Some of that have been through professional organizations like the CMDA or other surgical organizations. Some of that have been very organic, where I'm meeting people either at work or at church or, on a missions trip. And I think that the ones that are structured, sometimes you go to something and there's like a meet and greet. And it's really sometimes meeting that person there, and maybe it didn't start as you're going to be my lifelong mentor, but you connected. And through that connection, hopefully you've developed an organic relationship. And I think that the organic relationships often strive, or I should use the word thrive, not strive, thrive more than those that are pre-set up. But if it is something that's kind of already set up, I think the other key is to know that it doesn't have to be forever. And if it doesn't work, then, find another mentor or find another mentee.
Yeah. There are seasons, and given the nature of one's healthcare career, there's a lot of different seasons, whether it be medical school and residency, and then the professional career and so forth. And it's likely that people are going to there are going to be those relationships that start and stop, and Ecclesiastes talks about that, the different seasons, and it's perfectly okay to let those relationships have an end and a conclusion, and maybe having it. Putting that expectation on the forefront does also alleviate some concern, as if somehow, this is going to be a forever thing, and that can be intimidating too on the front end.
Absolutely.
I think we kind of intuitively understand the benefit of someone being mentored, but talk a little bit about the flip side, the blessing. You're pouring in. You have, a Paul to a Timothy. How is that a blessing? How has that been a blessing to you, Allie?
Yeah, well, I think that a lot of this journey, there's a lot of times where you could feel really burned out. We hear about that a lot in medicine. And I think really sharing experiences with somebody behind you, quite frankly, has given me a lot of joy, both in their struggles, because quite frankly, a lot of times I've had that same struggle. And to be able to share what I've learned through that struggle, or like when they have successes, just to really celebrate those successes. And so for me, I think it's really been a good way to combat burnout, because of just seeing that they're in those same experiences, and that literally we're just sharing life together.
Stay with us. More Student Pulse podcast in just a moment. To learn more about CMDA, download our CMDA Student Life app, available for Android and iPhone. The app will give you access to CMDA events, tools, Bible studies, and a wealth of other resources. Also, joining CMDA can be done on the app, and it only takes about 3 minutes to complete. As a student, CMDA will underwrite your membership so that you can join the community at no cost. Download the app today.
I think, if anything, it reminds us that we are not in this alone. Community is so important, and the enemy would seek to isolate ourselves. And with the busyness, it can come a lot of isolation, and we forget that we need each other, and we, as you said earlier, thrive when we're in community with one another. And yeah, I think I learn the most when I'm being when I am pouring into someone else. It's like a boomerang effect. It comes right back, and I'm as blessed as much as I may be perceived as being a blessing to someone. It's really a blessing to me, and I grow. I'm challenged. Well, this.
100%. I think it also kind of keeps you in the word, right? So if you're
Yes.
having to almost be accountable to somebody else, then it's like, oh man, you want to be in the word so that you can share the word with them.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And again, it goes back to your original comments, Allie. It just comes from an overflow of your walk with the Lord, and you don't have to be the Bible answer person. You don't have to have that. These relationships aren't set up for that. They're meant to be mutually encouraging. In fact, one of the things we have a tool. I'll mention this now, and it'll be in our show notes. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's 20 questions, and it's an opportunity just to tee up some very meaningful questions, so that discussion can kind of begin to develop from that can help encourage the relationship and get to some spiritual issues as they might be. So simple things like that can just help encourage these kinds of relationships. So well, kind of as we kind of draw our conversation to a close, Allie, what would you say to somebody listening that both desires to have a mentor, or maybe you can talk to the flip side as well, to somebody listening that would want to be a mentor? What would you say to them as next steps? How would you encourage them moving forward?
Yeah, so I think probably one of the first steps is deciding kind of where in your life do you want mentorship. I think no one mentor is going to fulfill every need, but through whether it's, you're wanting a research mentor or a spiritual mentor, whatever. I think oftentimes what we get involved in, there are avenues to build those relationships. And then it's just about being available with your time, coming with questions, and, making time for one another.
Oh, I think that's important. What I've seen too is when we make ourselves available, God seems to provide opportunities. And so often when students, I'll talk from that side of the coin, is student goes on a mission trip and they have a preceptor, then that relationship I've seen so often cultivate into some kind of mentoring relationship because they made themselves available to go on a trip or national convention, having an opportunity to meet other individuals that are, a little further along in their career, but who love the Lord, and those opportunities and connections can translate into opportunities for mentorship. But you don't get those opportunities if you stay at home. So putting yourself out there, being available, being connected, being engaged, I think makes yourself available for opportunities as God may choose to open those doors. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the key is just being in community and making yourself available, like you said, Bill.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for this discussion. And I failed to mention, too, that we're working together on a project that's really an ongoing project called the Mentoring Commission, and it has just begun to jumpstart. And that, again, I think echoes just how much value we put on this idea and this effort of mentoring, how much we want it, and it is, but what we want to continue to press deeper still into it becoming a big part of the DNA of CMDA. And so thank you, Allie, for being a part of that commission. We've got a bunch of other individuals that are working together to continue to again, push this forward, to continue to help others engage in meaningful mentoring relationships. And so thank you for what you're doing now, even currently in those mentoring relationships, and for your involvement in all this. And again, I appreciate what you do. Thank you, Allie.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me and this time together. And yeah, I'm looking forward to continuing with CMDA, working towards building more mentorship relationships for other people nationally. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. CMDA's Student Pulse podcast is a production of the Christian Medical and Dental Associations. The opinions expressed by guests on this podcast are not necessarily endorsed by the organization. CMDA is non-partisan and does not endorse political parties or candidates for public office. The views expressed on Student Pulse podcast reflect judgments regarding principles and values held by CMDA and its members.